Geometry Dash, at its core, is an incredibly simple game. It's just a game about a little square traversing levels and avoiding obstacles that, when touched, send the player back to the beginning. There are a few different game modes, speed changers, and orbs that vary how the game plays, but everything is controlled by just one input. Only 21 main levels, 7 game modes, and 1 button required. Not much to it, right? When it was created back in 2013, it was meant to be nothing more than just a fun little mobile game that might make a few people destroy their phones. But with time, a community started to build around it. Eventually, the game got released on PC, which is where it really took off. Mods started getting made to make the playing experience more enjoyable, and more players got more and more skilled. The reason this game in particular didn't die off like most other mobile games is because of one key feature that set Geometry Dash apart from every other mobile game of its time: a level editor. With the Geometry Dash level editor, players can create whatever they want using a wide variety of gameplay mechanics, decorative objects, and triggers, which, to be honest, like 95% of us don't really know how to use. Like, what does this even mean, dude? What? Oh, thanks. Real helpful. When I say the words Geometry Dash, most people probably envision a level like this, if they even know what I'm talking about. But with the level editor, players with time have grown to be able to create levels like this. Oh, I know how to levitate up off my feet, and ever since the 7th grade I learned to fire breathe, and though I feed on things that fell, you can learn to levitate with just a little help. Learn to levitate with just a little help. A select few players have managed to master everything the level editor has to offer, and turn Geometry Dash into a medium of art and expression. Yes, I know that's cringy, just let me have this. That brings us to the topic of this video. Today, I, JC, am going to take a deep dive into my favorite level, examine what makes it work as well as it does, and what methods it uses to its advantage. That level being Well Rested by Overdefo. Overdefo is a creator with an extremely distinguishable style. In fact, they essentially invented a new creating style which many people build with to this day, called neo-design, which focuses on simplicity and atmosphere rather than intricate designs. As the trailblazer of neo-design, Overdefo stuck to that style for a while and became known for levels that sometimes tended to lack a little bit of detail. It was becoming pretty clear that Overdefo had set the expectations for what their future levels would look like, only to absolutely shatter them when they dropped Well Rested, which, while sticking to their foundations, is a complete revamp of their building style. Instead of the usual abstract settings of their levels, Well Rested drops the player into a fully fledged landscape with ruins, hills, flora, and waterfalls. As much as I love abstract levels that just look cool for the sake of looking cool, I find that levels that do this are overall just more effective. Putting the player in what feels like a physical setting just makes the level feel so much more real and substantial, and really grounds it as a whole. I really appreciate the way Overdefo executed this too, as instead of focusing on making it look like a real place, they put their own personal twist on how a landscape looks. Take a level like Black Flag by Nikon and More, for example, which has its main focus set on realism. Don't get me wrong, I find this type of level extremely impressive, and I give massive respect to the creator's work here. But I found that the focus of looking as realistic as possible actually ends up being a bit of a pitfall for this level. With a level that has its main goal being to look real, anything that doesn't look as real as it possibly could stands out as what can be seen as a flaw. It isn't inherently a bad thing to not look picture perfect, but it can come across as a lack of cohesion when there is a break in realism. Well Rested, on the other hand, doesn't even attempt to look as real as possible, and that's exactly what I love about it. It doesn't set the unattainably high standard for itself of looking like the real world, so it doesn't have to suffer the pitfall of inevitably falling short of it. The cartoonish style of Well Rested does an excellent job at conveying what each and every object is supposed to represent, while also giving it a light and joyful, yet almost heavenly atmosphere. Along with the absolutely phenomenal usage of color, gradients, and contrast throughout the entire level, and all of the little details that slightly add intricacy and depth, this level is just total eye candy to me. It is so beautiful in its simplicity, but with every watch you'll notice a new detail that you have never seen before. The style also helps out in the regard of making this level a memorable viewing experience. Coming back to Black Flag, for me the fact that it is just so effective and looking real makes it less memorable in a way. It just looks like the real world with nothing else really to it. The style of Well Rested, however, is just so unique and recognizable that when I think of Geometry Dash, I think of Well Rested. It gives it such a sense of individuality and originality, and I really think there is just nothing else like it. The main reason I like Well Rested as much as I do, though, is its absolute mastery of progression. As I'm sure you can guess from its name, progression is the sense of change or how a level builds upon itself as it progresses. In a level with typically good progression, you can think about the way it progresses as those plot diagrams from grade 8 English. For a multitude of reasons, Well Rested has the absolute best progression in any level I've ever seen. The main contribution to this is the level's length. The average Geometry Dash level is about a minute or two, but Well Rested is 7 minutes long. In the same way that I love long songs that take ages to get to the climax, I love the weight Well Rested puts you through to get to the drop. For a whole 4 minutes, both the level and the song keep building and building towards one of the most climactic drops the game has to offer. Another factor that adds to the climax of the level is admittedly an extremely simple yet genius trick that has since changed the game of progression. Geometry Dash, like most other games, runs at a 16:9 aspect ratio. The majority of Well Rested instead uses a 4:3 aspect ratio. Upon first opening the level, this does feel a little bit odd, like the level is slightly more cramped than it would be normally, but after a few minutes of play, you forget about the change in aspect ratio and it feels like the new normal. At the same moment the drop hits though, the aspect ratio suddenly expands back to the usual 16:9 and drastically opens up the level. The players feel the view is larger, the gameplay is faster, and the playing experience is more exhilarating than ever. I find that the wider aspect ratio adds an element of importance to the drop, as if you're supposed to be taking in more of the level in this moment because of its significance. With everything Overdefo does to shine the spotlight on this part, the drop is absolutely the focal point of Well Rested in its progression. There are a few little details sprinkled in elsewhere that add to the progression of the level though, my favorite of which being the color of the sky in the background, which follows how the sky changes throughout the day. The level starts in the afternoon, with the sky being light blue, gradually shifts to dark blues and purples to depict the evening and night, moves on to pinks, oranges, and yellows to represent the morning, and finally changes back to the same blue in the beginning. Little touches like this is what I absolutely love about Well Rested. When you first play to watch it, you get the big picture, and the more closely you look at it, you peel back the layers and uncover new and unseen details. I know it's just a Geometry Dash level, but I truly think Well Rested pushes the envelope of GD as an art medium. It's the first level of its kind, combining exceptional stylistic choices and a masterclass of progression to create a one-of-a-kind experience that feels like a journey, and I personally cannot wait to see what Overdefo and the rest of the Geometry Dash community will create in the future. I've been JC, and I hope you've enjoyed my rambling about a random level in a $4 Square game.